if I could have everybody take notes and then also put your name down for attendees. Let's try to get better too with like putting our names down as well. And then also please interact with the notes. This is a async meeting. You can see the notes from Tuesday's call. So please definitely, you know, put any kind of like either notes or talking points or +1s, anything like that, because we do have a lot of things going on, okay? All right, so now definitely welcome to the March 12th edition of the Chair and Tech Lead meeting. Thank you all for joining us today. T is for triage and Thursday, and we do have a theme today. And that theme is triage. And as I mentioned before, please put your name on the agenda. And as always, we do have a code of conduct. Please be excellent to each other. It looks like we have about 11 of us on the line today, which is a smaller group, which is great. So feel free to respectfully, you know, interject at a pause, or also, you know, raise your hand and we'll try to get to you as well. All right, and since it is a small crew, do we have any first timers with us that have not done an introduction to the chair or tech lead crowd? All right, let's do a quick roll call then, just to get us all jonesed up about this. Say your name, say what SIG you're representing, and that's it, okay? Let's see here. Who you here repping? Who are you here repping? Eeyore, roll call.
My name is Thurs. I'm a developer advocate at CNCF, and I don't represent here any specific SIG, but I'm an emeritus co-chair of SIG PM and also actively involved in the various SIGs, including contributor experience.
Thank you, Eeyore. Nice seeing you. Tim, roll call.
I'm Tim Pepper. I'm here from SIG Release and also the working group LTS.
George.
George Castros at Contribex. Mostly I do stuff that SIG chairs need me to do, so I'm kind of here to help whatever y'all need.
Walter.
Walter, GitHub Chef Taco and SIG Cloud Provider.
Matt.
Matt Farina, SIG Apps.
John.
John Bellameric, SIG Arch.
Stephen.
Stephen Augustus, SIG Release and PM.
Christoph.
Christoph Flecker, technical lead for SIG Contributor Experience and the Kubernetes Steering Committee.
Janet.
Hi, it's Janet on SIG Apps.
Yes, made it through roll call. That was like my first time actually like doing a roll call. Like I keep reading like all of these like work from home meeting things. That was one of the things. So anyway, thank you for appeasing me. Anyway, all right. So announcements that I wanted to breeze through, and also let me share my screen in case I know folks are like walking dogs and stuff like that. So let me share my screen for you. Really quick announcements, and because I want to breeze by this and get to all the good stuff, right? These are things that you have to know as a chair or tech lead this week, this month, whenever. The EU Contributor Summit, if you have not heard, is obviously being postponed. KubeCon is being postponed. The Contributor Summit team is hard working trying to figure out what the heck that means. They do want to do some virtual things. You're going to have a lot of communications shortly to all the regular channels, which is most notably Kubernetes-dev. So nothing necessarily is for you, except if you were speaking, you should probably talk to Yang and some of the other people that were coordinating the content. And that's it for that. Cool. Any questions about the Contributor Summit? I mean, and or KubeCon, we might know a little bit about that, but okay. Again, it's a lot of, obviously everybody knows you're waiting to see what the deal is. So lots of people hard at work there. Thanks to everybody on the line that's working on that. We have some new tech leads in SIG Docs. We have new chairs in SIG Instrumentation. Are any of those folks online right now? I don't think so. I think Ilana and Han were on Tuesday's call. So anyway, please in the SIG Chairs Slack channel, say hello to them. That's Ilana and Han with SIG Instrumentation, and Karen and Tim with SIG Docs. And the cool thing about SIG Docs is this is the first time they've ever had a tech lead role. So they are getting the inspiration of splitting out those roles and responsibilities to have better onboarding experiences and better succession planning and things like that. So also big congratulations to SIG Docs for opening that window as well. There is a KEP. Did anybody that put this KEP on the announcements?
Hi.
Are they here? Hey! All right.
So I put it on, but I think it's probably better if Tim speaks about it.
Either way, I mean, I don't know what all you discussed on Tuesday, was it? But in the other instance, but just to sort of reiterate, we have been talking about a change to the support stance. Right now, we do 3 trailing releases or getting patches cherry picked back to them and community support. We've been talking about extending that. The problem that we were perceiving in a survey and discussions last year was that many end users were trailing. Even the major cloud providers are defaulting to relatively older Kubernetes releases, not managing quite moving forward fast enough. And because of that, people are falling out of support faster. We need to both incentivize moving forward faster, but probably also think seriously about giving a little bit longer support on what we've delivered as a community. Right now, what that looks like is we ship something, nobody adopts it on day one, eventually it rolls out to production, people start getting onto it, and then suddenly they're up against the end of support, and it's just a little too fast for people. From a time perspective, that 3 releases right now works out to basically 9 months. And that requires that you would move on to something and off of it within a period of 9 months. And that's faster than people typically do. It's fairly common for people like to deploy something and run it for the year. And maybe they have sort of annual change windows within their business cycle, and they like to align to that. So the key part of this KEP is a proposal that we change our support stance such that we can encompass an annual support cycle for people. What that practically looks like, we've scoped this really minimally. We're not trying to change everything about how we do release and patch back support. So the minimal approach that would be, instead of doing 3 trailing support branches, we do 4. Instead of removing 1 from our support, we just keep it for another 3 months or so, and then that kind of gives that year span. There's a whole bunch of other proposals of how we might accomplish this, and lots of discussion of things that have been considered in the KEP there. So just wanted to encourage folks to read that and think about implications it might have on your SIG, and we'd love feedback. Do you think this is a huge impact on you, or could you consider that something implementable today, or what would the gaps be towards having something like that implementable, or is it a utter impossibility? We're just looking for a little more broad feedback, and we are going to be attending specific SIGs meetings to have some pointed conversation on a few topical things that still remain as questions. So hopefully that's a TLDR. There's like probably 20 pages of text there or more.
So I've got action right now for chairs to review and comment, want broad feedback, and that you'll be attending certain SIG meetings.
Did you want all the chairs to bring it up in their meetings?
If you want to, you can. This is maybe a little bit of an unusual KEP. In theory, every SIG is a stakeholder on this, so any SIG could block it from being declared implementable. It'll be interesting to see how we decide to say that this one has been, the consensus was formed around declaring this as implementable or not. So if you've got a few minutes to bring it in your agenda, just get a little more eyeballs on it, we'd certainly appreciate it, just to make sure we have as broad as possible exposure.
Okay, this one certainly makes sense because the major cloud providers default to the last version, or the latest version that is no longer supported. And then the latest version most of them have is the oldest version that's supported.
And that goes out of support in 2 weeks.
Yep, and so they're just adding the next one now, so that way when their version falls out of support, they've still got the last one that's supported as an option. And I would really love it if we were able to someday fix some of the mechanics that slows people down from upgrading, because that there are underlying issues there that if we're able to do that, we can remove the pain, which will make people more likely to upgrade. It's a high barrier to entry to upgrade right now.
Sounds like a good comment, Matt. All right.
Oh, don't worry, it'll go.
Medicap enhancements. Stephen, I think I saw you sneak that in. Can you do that in 30 seconds?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
So we've been talking about some enhancements to KEPs. It's been happening on the SIG architecture mailing list. So I think Tim Hawken kicked that off. He opened a KEP around enhancing KEPs. So a few things around the ecosystem, like moving KEPs to a directory structure, changing some of the names, splitting the metadata out of the top level, out of the front matter for the README, stuff like that. I think it's pretty minimal, but because it's something that affects everyone, I do want SIG chairs, technical leads to take a look at it. We're at the point where I think we're pretty happy with what's been laid down at this point, and we wanted to try to do that first so that it wasn't going to get too bike sheddy before opening to the broader group. So I'm gonna send an email out to SIG leads and chairs, tech leads, and all that good stuff. And then open a timeout period for that KEP. So questions, comments, please take a look at the KEP, leave them there. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, does anybody have questions or comments, like 30 seconds for any of the announcements? So you've got 2 things on there that require feedback on comments, saying hello to new SIG chairs and TLs in the Slack channel, and waiting for the summit team to let you know what your actions are for the contributor summit. All right, hold on, let me check chat really quick. Okay. And all right, let's do a last meeting recap really quickly. I'm not going to do a full 10 minutes on this, but this is something I just want to get us into a good practice of following up on what we say we're going to do, and getting some actions and some things done. So the first thing that is on here is a GitHub issue. Don't make fun of all my tabs. I know I can see some of your eyes like, ooh, tabs. This is the sort of a chair rulebook handbook that I glued together. And I say glued together because I didn't make up a lot of this stuff. This stuff comes from the SIG governance or governance MD or some other governance doc that we have here. And I just really put it into bullet form. And then also Stephen and Zach and quite a few other chairs were giving comments on the Once Upon a Time not Word doc. Wow, that was ancient. Google Doc. And I put their comments in here, and it says things like, hold on, let me get the little pen, suggested by. So if you have comments or questions or things that you think would be added here, again, think about what you do, and also not only what you do, but take off any TL hats that you also wear, any tech lead hats that you wear. This is just for the chair role. Many of you, I think it's the majority of you, actually carry a chair and tech lead hat. So it's important to think about that role separately for right now, for this exercise, right? And that's it there. Questions, concerns, comments about this? And I know a lot of other people did have comments and questions about this off record as well. So we can always punt this to discussion too. But I at least wanted to bring this up. Cool. All right. Now I got to figure out how to get out of the, how do I get out of the annotation? Like, okay, here we go. I got out of it. Somebody in the chat said, oh, never mind. That was to the cloud providers conversation. All right. Here we go. Oh no, how do I get the eraser? Yes. There we go. And then the next issue that we had, oops, wrong one. Here we go. Next issue that we had is the baseline and expectation of communications for you all as chairs. It's widely known that we have a lot of communication channels and we talk about a lot of different things. So this is adding to either an already established document for chairs and tech leads, like one of the governance documents, or making its own doc, if you will. But this is really addressing the where you should be checking, how often you should be checking, and really just giving a baseline for certain people with expectations and how you get acts, and acts being acknowledgements and what gets acknowledgements and things like that. Because, you know, I think a lot of people on the line now know that they have to chase folks down because people are so busy. But that can get difficult, especially if you don't know their preferred contact information, or even if not knowing contact information in general. So Taylor, only Dole inside of here as well, created a preferred channels, preferred contact list for chairs and tech leads. Please fill that in. It looks like about half of you right now have. So this is just saying that you would prefer to be contacted from us, meaning steering or Contribex or somebody or another chair, somebody working on the project. You would like to be contacted in one of these means anyways first. So some people say, hey, get a hold of me wherever. I'm on everything all the time. Other people say, hey, I'm only on Slack. Some people even said, I do check GitHub notifications. So do me a favor, add your name to the bottom here. Again, this is on the top of the meeting notes. I also see chat exploding right now, so I'm going to check that too. Hold on, what's that chat?
It's more cloud provider stuff. I'm
Okay,
just
cool.
chatting in the background.
All right, just wanted to make sure it wasn't about this. So yeah, this is comms. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, comments about what we're doing here, why we're doing it? You hate it, literally anything you want to share, let us know. All right. So that was really the wrap from some of the conversations that we had last time. Does anybody have anything that they want to share from any of either their previous meetings, either things that you took away, any bits of information that you're working on, anything that you want to share right now? Cool. I expect when we ask that in the future that folks are probably going to share more because we have a lot of different smaller projects relating to chairs going on. So we'll have a lot more to share. All right, Stephen, where are you? Now it is kept overview. Triage and workflow. Stephen's going to tell us what the current state is. We obviously have some notes already in there from Tuesday, but Stephen's still going to give you the full rundown. Also, you can even see some of the other chairs' questions in there. If you have questions, go ahead and put them on the agenda while Stephen's talking, and then we can get to the questions soon. All right, take it away.
Can I grab the screen share from you?
Yeah. Don't move.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, this I think we've been talking about issue triage for a little bit in a variety of venues, and it's definitely something that comes up for the release team, the bug triage team specifically. They work on. I'm sorry, there's a garbage truck in the background. Sorry about that. The bug triage team is responsible for triaging issues and PRs that come across in the Kubernetes repo. So I think I want to say in 1.14, maybe earlier even, there was an idea. What if we had what if we started talking about what the workflow actually looked like for people to bring something from newly opened issue to a completed issue or PR or merged PR, right? So super quick stats. So first thing to keep in mind, like this KEP is intentionally light. I was very sparse on details because like this is something that we want to try to move through quickly, and it's been I guess, in progress for years. There have been discussions on this for years. If you look at the implementation history, there's a mailing list discussion going back to 2016. So this is intentionally light. But currently there are about 900 something pull requests and 2,000 plus open issues in Kubernetes. And there are a variety of them in various states that are either stale, rotten, or frozen. So we're looking at about 20% or so of those, if you smush all of those statuses together, that are in some sort of staleness. So the idea is, like, how do we get SIGs to the point where just providing them a little bit of prow plugin love, right, to get them to the point where it's easier for them to triage their issues day to day. So the proposal, so looking at the user stories as a SIG chair, technical lead, user, working group, user group, organizer, sub-project owner, I want to be able to easily triage my group's backlog of open issues and PRs to accelerate merge velocity and issue resolution, right? For a reviewer approver, I want a simple system that allows me to categorize issues and PRs in my purview so I can prioritize what to review first, right? And as a contributor, whether this be a non-reviewer approver or a drive-by contributor, I want to understand the way how the community works to address new submissions. I want to have some assurance that they'll be routed to the correct group, and I want to have them addressed in a timely manner, right? And I think all of this makes sense. Garbage truck, cut it out. So there's one non-goal for this, and it's prescribing an issue triage workflow for all of the projects within Kubernetes orgs. Right now we're trying to tackle Kubernetes because I think that's the biggest pain point. I think that's the ingress point for a lot of people to the project in terms of submitting feedback or opening new PRs. So the idea is two labels, right? One label would be needs triage, right? And needs triage would operate in the same mutually exclusive way that the needs kind, needs priority, and needs SIG labels operate, whereby if you apply a kind label, a priority label, or a SIG label, it would remove the other one, right? So the second one is lifecycle ready, but I'm thinking it makes more sense to call this triage ready, and you'll see that in some of the comments, both in the KEP itself as well as the meeting notes, that it might make more sense to call it like triage ready. And the idea is you would apply, you could use a bot command, or if you have write access to the repo, you can manually apply the label to remove needs triage. Right from there, we don't want to prescribe a workflow for everyone just yet. The idea would be you, at the point which you knew your issues were untriaged, you could search by the needs triage label, do whatever your SIG does to move them to a triage state, and then hit it with the triage ready bot command. And then from there, you can search all of the issues or PRs that are or issues specifically for triage that are in the triage ready state, and move on those, and move on determining when or how you should do those. So that's it, I think, short and to the point. Let's do questions.
Quiet bunch.
I will comment on SIG Network and the way we do triage there. So we actually do something like this, but we use I was just looking at the labels.
Athena bot.
What's that?
Athena bot.
Yeah, Valerie put together Valerie.
Clancy, yeah.
Yeah, she put together a bot that works on it. We actually use the triage unresolved label as your needs triage label, which I guess is not what it's originally meant for. But and then we in each SIG meeting we devote like a certain amount of time, usually like 15 minutes, to just go and triage. And basically we consider it triaged if we've given it a kind and a priority, and we've assigned it to a person. And then each 2 weeks, we follow up on those, and we'll actually end up closing ones that when we say don't get responses from the original, we need more information and people are unresponsive, we'll just close it. So it's worked pretty well to cut down our backlog substantially over the last 6 months or so. So I think definitely some sort of process and assistance in PROW would be great for everybody.
Mute.
Yeah, just unmuted. So not my SIG, actually API Machinery, but API Machinery runs a public triage twice a week. I know that this will help them tremendously because knowing what needs to be triaged, especially when bugs move between SIGs, is a significant problem for them. But it does bring up the issue that if things move between SIGs, we're probably going to want an easy way to remark it as needs triage.
Walter, good news is Fetty came on Tuesday and did a demo. Oh, not demo, really, because screen share was busted, but he did a walkthrough of what API Machinery does. So lots of folks caught that, and Stephen also caught that for kept notes and kept comments as well. So that was good news there.
So yeah, so I think this is definitely due for some update, but I had drafted kind of a state machine of what it looks like to move through open, triage, close, complete, backlog, and so on and so forth. I didn't want to include this in the KEP because it's pretty easy to get hung up on these details. This is due for like a rework, but the entry criteria you can see here for like what I consider to be triage is like has a SIG and has the needs triage label or something, right? I think the triage labels, and then to get out of this, you would close it, you would apply a few things, or so this would be like applying the triage ready label, right? Yeah, so I agree there. I also don't want to define exactly how SIGs get out of the triage state so that they can feel free to develop their own process, right? If there's something that there's something that starts to work for multiple people and we can gain consensus on that, then we can consider applying it at a larger level. But I think what's hung this up for so long is the fact that no one's agreed on just a few things. So I want to bring two things to the table, which is the bot automation for needs triage and no longer needs triage, right? And this is something that was brought to contributor experience maybe eons ago. Christoph, if you want to chime in there.
I think he's walking the dog.
So it looks like he's in the car.
And I know, right?
I wish I would have known walking the dog was an option. I'm stuck in this basement.
And Zoom keeps yelling at me, telling that my internet connection's unstable.
Unstable.
So
Come on, George, you have that fancy new setup down there, right? You sent out a picture.
It is. I highly recommend this microphone for everyone. In fact, Chris Short and I put together an Amazon wish list so that we could just have that somewhere. So if people want like a kind of best practice, everyone has the same hardware.
We're all working from home now, so
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I'll get with them. It wouldn't hurt to kind of share that more publicly with everyone so that, kind of figure it out.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And I see that Lubomir joined as well. Perfect timing. Next up on the agenda, we've got a little bit of a walkthrough. We asked 2 SIGs to come to the meetings and just give us a walkthrough of what they're doing for triage, why they're doing it, different, because you'll see different approaches, different strokes for different folks. So let's see what some of the stuff that Cluster Lifecycle is up to today. Lubomir, did you need to either share your screen or anything like that? If you don't, that's cool. I just wanted to make sure you're set.
Hi. Fortunately, I'm sort of unprepared for this presentation.
That's okay.
So I wanted to ask a specific question, like, do you want me to share what we are doing in KK specifically? Because we have so many sub-projects.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really what it's just about to, it's just demoing that you all do have a process and like this is what's worked for you and kind of what hasn't worked for you. So just pretty much